Goonhammer has partnered with Legalized Mischief to present you with Colin Ward's long-form painting videos. Like and subscribe, and follow Legalized Mischief and Goonhammer for more hobby tutorials.
Hey everyone, it's Colin with Legalized Mischief Productions. Thank you for joining me and welcome. And today I'm going to be showing you how I paint Hive Fleet Ancalagon for the Tyranid faction. This scheme is an exercise in minimal effort for maximum visual impact. If this model takes me more than 90 minutes to paint, I will have not made my goal. This model should take less than an hour to paint. And maybe not including like drying time on the basing, but painting the model itself should take maybe an hour. So that's just to give you an idea of just how fast this scheme is. But it's going to look pretty cool. By the time this tutorial is posted, I'll have pictures of the model posted. So, check those out. But this scheme is very, 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 very simple. And by that, I mean I primed it black. We're going to do game color somber gray on the body, highlighted with an AK white gray, which is almost white. Very, very, very pale, true gray. And then airbrush black on the carapace. After we do that, we're going to go in with some oils to add just some different colors around the joints and define kind of some of the maybe larger parts of the body, and then a little flesh with the brush and blood splatter and satin varnish the carapace, and that's literally it. Really, 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 really quick, effective, creepy scheme. So first things first, we're going to put a little water in the cup. And so that's somber gray. It can be any blue gray. It doesn't necessarily have to be somber gray. I just really like this paint. Excellent, excellent, excellent coverage. And yeah, it's just really good. But, Fenrisian gray, rust gray, whatever. Same kind of blue gray. This is like a very, very flexible scheme. So doing things exactly the way I do them is not necessary, but oh my gosh. I just spilled a bunch of paint, but thankfully none of it in my lap. So we're just going to keep going. Don't worry about the carapace, of course, because we're just going to airbrush that black. So this is very much a army that I'm only painting because of the Leviathan box release, where this scheme is always kind of, I've always said, if I was going to do Tyranids, I would do this scheme. It was very popular with a painter called Third Eye Nuke, maybe 6 or 7 years ago. He was doing a lot of Tyranids and different things in this same style. And I just always thought it looked really, really, really cool. And it was obviously really easy to do. From a technique and time standpoint. And I don't know if you can tell, but I didn't spend all day on gap filling I still want the assembly to be okay, and I'm not putting together a sloppy model, and it's not going to be a sloppy paint scheme, but Um, I'm also not spending all day on it because this is a scheme that the only way that I would ever have this army to any extent would be this scheme, because I know I could get a model and build it and paint it in one night, essentially. So unlike my Blood Angels, which are a little more involved, but then of course Sisters of Battle, which are a whole other ball of wax. So obviously not being too careful about the carapace, because we're just going to do that black. Now I'm going to get a little more water in there. Now we're going to go in with the white gray. Vallejo model color also makes a white gray. I just really like this paint. I think it's really high quality. I like AK paints. I've been transitioning more into AK recently, just because they're super, super, super high quality. And they have a really nice range. So, third generation acrylics. So, and here we're gonna go. But that needs to be a little thinner, because we're starting to get some splotchiness there, which again is fine. Overspray is not something we're worried about with this scheme. Neatness even isn't even really a thing. So there we go. That's a little bit better. Always test on the glove before you go back to the model. This might take a couple passes because it is so thin. And then we're just gonna leave. I may need a new needle, actually. I'm not looking at this, but we'll do that on a model that doesn't have this amount of zero fucks to give going on. So you can see how thin that is. Super, super thin. Goodness. Probably could have gap filled the tail a little bit. Ooh. I'm really hosing that. Okay. The gun's gonna get a lot of kind of the flesh treatment as well as the head. And that's really it. The rest of the model is going to be this pale gray blue with black, and it just looks creepy. This Hive Fleet Ancalagon is also the Hive Fleet of the Tyranids described in Ravener Rogue. If you haven't read the Ravener series, I highly recommend it. I think it's really good. I'd say the Eisenhorn series is actually better. But for a few reasons. But the Ravener series is still good. Still worth reading for sure. But at some point in Ravener Rogue, they encounter Tyranids in like this portal, and like Ravener's never encountered him before. He's not quite sure. He does more pain. This is like just water at this point. It's not going well. He's not really quite sure what to make of them. But when they're describing them as like pale with like glossy carapaces and like bloody maws, and so I'm wondering if that's where kind of Third Eye got his, I don't know his real name, but that's where he got his inspiration. But I always associate this scheme with him, and that's where I draw my inspiration from. So he had like a really kind of convoluted way of doing the blood, and I think part of that was probably because it was, so many years ago. But I think this stuff does look a little bit, I don't know about more polished, but it's either going to look cool. I promise you. It's going to be deceptively easy. So that looks pretty good. That's the body pretty much sorted at this point. And now for the super fun part. Like, this is criminally easy. There's going to be 1, 2, 3. There's going to be 3 paints that I'm going to use as a brush. Flesh, black, and white. And there's going to be Payne's Gray oil and like a burnt umber oils. And then blood splatter. Satin varnish and matte varnish. That's literally it. That's the whole paint list. Pretty sure. And now comes the little bit tricky part, and the part that we are going to want to spend just a couple minutes kind of focusing on and being careful-ish. Overspray is not the end of the world. Overspray is fine. Now we're going to go in with the airbrush and do the carapace. So this is just AK black through the airbrush. And if we need to, we can get a piece of paper here. Just so we don't spray completely on the gun behind it. The tongue I'll spray a little bit, but I'm going to come back with the brush and just paint the tongue. And now this whole carapace here. Try and get under the carapace just a little bit, just to give it a little shadow there like that. Not shadow, I mean, it's the under part of the carapace. But a little splatter on the arms is fine. A little splatter on the surrounding tissue and stuff is fine. It kind of lends a little bit of texture, but we don't want to overdo it, right? We're trying to obliterate the work that we've done. Get the I don't know what these are called. I call it like smokestacks, but I know obviously that's not it. Perfect time for my hand to be cramping. Oh, look at that. That overspray on that leg might be a little bit much, so we may have to go back and fix that. Not fix it, but just kind of do a little bit of also just putting your finger in the way is a good way to mask on the trick as well. Okay. Continue on the back there. There we go. If precision is your thing, this scheme will give you hives. So maybe not your chosen scheme for Tyranids. But as like an exercise in efficiency, this is pretty fun. Just want to make sure I'm not skipping ahead too far. Where's how to spend the minute? Oops. Too bad. There we go. Oh, and hooves. That's right. Hooves and claws are also blast. So I'm going to go back and just those. Hooves, claws, swords, stuff like that. Little stabby bits. Something is all in. Slide that right behind there. There we go. Oops, sorry. That was happening off camera. My bad. Just kept twisting and twisting. Now we're starting to get an idea of how this thing's going to look. Pretty badass. Let's not forget these little hook claws in here. We don't have to do these claws with the airbrush. You could come in here with a brush, but where's the fun in that? And I should probably do that. So part of it is like the overspray helps give it that kind of organic look. That helps integrate into kind of the creature around it, where there aren't like hard and fast lines on these organisms. These are not slapped together, but spawned for a purpose. I think this scheme is gonna look so good with really, I mean, any model in the range. That's another thing to consider when, picking out a scheme, especially for a faction like Tyranids, where you're just gonna be painting the same thing over and over and over again. I think one of the things that's brilliant about the Tyranid range is that it really does accept forgot some paint there. It really does accept almost any color scheme. The flexibility of the range is just incredible, and as it should be, because that's their whole thing, right? So except these little claws under here again. I think that's pretty good. Now we're going to finish off with this last kind of section of carapace on its leg here. And I think that's it. So we have the main elements. Pretty much. Well, just going back over to make sure I haven't missed anything too obvious. That's it. So we're at 20 minutes on this paint job so far. That's it for part 1. Airbrushing. And you can see kind of that is the scheme. That black and really pale gray blue. The pop is going to come from, we're going to add a little bit of color with the burnt umber and the burnt umber and the Payne's gray. Add a little bit of color to the body, but not much. We really want it to stay that kind of that pale white gray. And then the blood splatter is going to be that real pop. So 20 minutes in, the main coloration of the model is done. So far, so good. Could I go in and clean up some of this overspray? Probably. Am I going to? No. It'll look fine when it's done. So, not worried about it. Not worried about it at all. So, tyrannofex for Hive Fleet Ancalagon, part 1. All done. Hope you enjoyed the tutorial. And, I'm going to post these all simultaneously, so go check out part 2. We're going to be doing part 2 of the Hive Fleet Ancalagon tutorial series. Today, we're going to be doing one installment of the extraordinarily limited brushwork that's involved with Hive Fleet Ancalagon, and then we're also going to be working with some oils. So first things first, we're going to get little bit of black paint. I'm using AK black, just because it's my new favorite. I'm leaning more towards AK paints in general recently. They're just very good. But I have a ton of Vallejo that I still need to work through. So, one of the main elements, making sure that we want to get painted black, is the tongue. And one of the things that is cool about this game is painting something with a brush and giving it like a hard edge will really make it stand out, because the rest of the black elements of the scheme are airbrushed, and so they have really soft edges, whereas coming in and painting something with a brush is going to give you a hard edge generally. And so now what we're going to do, I don't know if you can see, but like this, the inside of this claw, I wasn't able to paint with the airbrush. So I'm just going to make sure that these claws, so what? I mean, I wanted to pick an awful brush, but maybe not quite that awful. Making sure that these claws and nails and, you know, all these sorts of elements are fully painted black. They're an important element to the scheme. So just look under here. You're probably not going to see that all the way back in there, but it's important to make sure, definitely want to make sure the tips of the claws and stuff are painted. And this is really it. This is really just some touch-up paint here. We're not going back and touching up, you know, hooves or carapace or anything. Sometimes, like on smaller models, you know, maybe termagants or something like that, if there's like a chest piece, I think when I was painting Von Ryan's Leapers, you know, there's part of the chest that like was just too small to airbrush, and I just went in with the brush and just painted those real quick. This is a really good example actually right here. So like these claws that are on here would have been extremely problematic to airbrush. The overspray would have just kind of obliterated everything, but they add a nice element to the weapon where the top barrel of the weapon is holding the bottom barrel. The other thing I like about this scheme is you can kind of choose what to care about and what not to care about. So like if these didn't add anything, I would not be painting them. If there was like random spikes or whatever, like I might, on a more kind of deliberate scheme, I might go back and like worry about stuff like this on the tail. Absolutely not. No siree. We are not worrying about any of that. So brushwork handled, and that's it until we get to the next segment. So for now, that's raw sienna. I don't want that. I have burnt umber. I usually use Winsor & Newton. Oh, this is water mixable. That's why it was acting so weird. I grabbed the wrong thing. Ho-ho. That explains a lot. But it doesn't matter. We're going to roll with it. Yeah, we're going to roll. So, I have black. Black oil wash. I have the aforementioned burnt umber oil wash. water mixable, which, okay, we're going to roll with that. And then I also have some Payne's Gray here. I don't know how much of this we're going to use on this model. Maybe on the legs a little bit, but probably not. So we're just going to hold that one back for now. When you see the Screamer Killer, you'll see why. Like, he has these big arms that are just pure white that really needed some definition. So I did a couple parts on Bob Ryan's Leapers that needed a little bit of definition. But first things first, we're going to take this black oil wash. It's so weird that this is going to trip me out that that's water mixable, and I was mixing it with spirits last time and it worked fine. So and now we're going to go, and you see all these little like recessed areas with the ribbing. And we're going to go in there with the black oil wash. And I'm using a regular hair brush. It's like a size 0 or 00. Because I'm not using any gloss varnish or anything. This is just raw oil, so this will stain everything around it. The other thing, so I'm using it for like these ribbed areas here, but then also any like large like holes or divots in the carapace. So for example, back here on the tail, I will just drop a healthy serving of oils in there, and it just looks fucking creepy. So when in doubt, do the creepy thing with this scheme. The goal is for this scheme to be weird and creepy, and by doing this limited palette, that's serving that end, right? And then doing shit like that where it's creepy, period. That's just a creepy thing to do. I'm not going to do all of these. But I'll come through the other side. Wonder how that would look, actually. Like, the back of my brain is telling me, like, yo, you should do those. Yeah, that looks creepy enough. The nice thing is, like, that's a lot. It's like a 10-second commitment, right? Oops. Then I'll have to come back with the Q-tip, but I'm not exactly committing to like, detail work with just hitting it with some oils. Make sure we get the front of the legs too. Or whatever, appendage. It's their legs. So adds a little interest to the back of the model, which is always good too. And the black just really gives that high contrast. That is creepy. And the oil just flows right in there. And again, because we're not using any varnish, it'll just sit in there and stain and look good. So it's doing exactly what we needed to do. Oops, come on. Nice. This is going very well already. I love this model. I'm so excited to have this model and have a reason to have this model. I've always liked this model, and I've liked playing against this model. The tyrannofex is probably my favorite build. I mean, the what's she called? The birthing termagant birthing queen thing. Gosh, shows what I know about Tyranids. She's cool. Turbogon? No. Anyway, she's cool, but the tyrannofex is just like huge and gnarly. Oh, almost forgot to do the other side back here with the black. No, I think I did the Turbogon. I'm gonna pause between oils and fucking look it up because it's gonna bother me. There's gonna be inside. There's a couple things inside of the leg that we can hit just to give it a little added malice. Oh, speaking of which, and see, this is how I know. A lot of this too is like unfamiliarity with the range, and just kind of your eyes not automatically kind of catching things. Going back, we've been over this model a few times now. Like, look at all these claws on the back of the leg here. Those are important. Don't want to miss those. But the lovely thing about this game is that you're just going in and painting in black. And it's going to take like a minute to do all 6 of them. And I don't have to be neat. It doesn't have to be perfect. I just go in. They just do need to be painted, though. But again, like if I had gotten to the end of this model and those hadn't been done, would I go back and do? No. I'm moving on. This is like I said, a very low energy, very low stakes, very much just, this is fun. I have fun doing this. This is just a fun project. I think for the Payne's Grey, we're going to pick out a couple parts on the gun that I think are worth picking out. On the body, I don't really see that much, except maybe behind the head, just to darken those shadows. So the Payne's Grey is going to be like a desaturated blue, blue-gray. And so it really does work as kind of a shading color-ish, and it adds a little color where previously there would not be any. So maybe around these nodes, just to get some definition there, just like parts of the weapon that really kind of show that it is a weapon. The giant barrel and shit is a dead giveaway, but maybe around the sack here, yes, and the little gribbly hands. Those are going to get some more treatment down the line. That's probably good on the Payne's Grey. I'm probably just going to leave it there. And then, hold on one second. Okay, I thought I did. So I have some burnt umber here with white spirit, even though they're water soluble. So, whatever. We're winging it. So here's the thing. I already have finished models with the burnt umber white spirit, and I don't want to fuck with it. So, and again, this is a low effort project. So if it's kind of fucked up, that's okay. It does work. So I'm not worried about that part. So with the burnt umber, what we're going to do, this is really where we start to get a little bit of definition in the scheme and a little bit of contrast in the scheme, a little bit of color in the scheme. We're going to focus on joints. And we can be a little heavy with this. So, wrist joints, elbow joints, knees, sockets. Really going to focus around the joints, and this will help to kind of break up the silhouette of the model, give it a little bit of warmth, a little bit of color. Just kind of go around the tentacles a little bit here is fine. Maybe a little bit around, different parts of the gun. Around there, kind of in here. Again, wrist. And you'll see it's not going to be on there for long, and we're gonna remove kind of a good deal of it. So you'll see how that impacts the final kind of presentation. I really like it. I think it's a neat touch. I think the scheme would be way too plain without this step. And I just think it's really important to do. So that's why we're going to do it. And it just kind of makes them, kind of dirtier and grimier, and adds just a little. It's not like they're taking baths, right? I mean, they're scurrying around eating shit. So just kind of get back up in there. Yeah, why not? Coming back here. I got those. Need that. More done there. Okay. Yes. Okay, and now kind of the part that's going to take a little bit more time is do like kind of the main part of the body. Also with the umber. Kind of get in the crevices there and give a little bit of warmth, and not like fleshiness, but just like a little bit of something to the main part of the body. And this goes for, all creatures great and small. So this will help. It really helps accentuate the legs, the appendages, and the weapons, which are still that really cool white, grayish white. And all right. Usually like drying time would be like the one thing that would actually extend the time that it takes to paint this. When I paint kind of the large swathes of this army, I'm going to be doing, 20, 30 models at a time. So that'll work. But for this, I'm going to get the hairdryer out, I think, and return shortly. All right, now that we've done that bit of magic, now we go back to our trusty artist white spirit. I'm going to link the how to make and use an oil wash video below as well, because I know I'm breezing through the whole oil wash thing, but you know, if you've been here a while, I've been over this 100 times. If you're new, welcome. And there's a video linked in the description to this video about how to make and use an oil wash, and that goes step by step through how to create these washes and why and things like that. So now that we have those created, get the Q-tip, everything's dry for the most part, and we're just going to start somewhat lightly. So I don't want to rub off all the color, but I do want the white to be the prominent color on the surface, if that makes sense. So like it'll stain, it'll definitely be stained, especially like where the Payne's gray is. It definitely leaves it looking bluer than it was. That's okay. We want that, especially around these kind of weapon parts and the little nodes here that didn't have any definition before we did the Payne's gray. Now, you know, there's a little bit of definition there. So, you know, chalk that up as a win. Doesn't really affect those black kind of ribs there because it's so ingrained in the deep kind of recesses. It's perfect. Works really well. I need more Q-tips than that. Feel a little unsaturated. And we're just going to work our way around the model, making sure just to get each joint. What we really want to keep an eye out for and do away with are lines, sharp lines. So places where you see maybe a brush stroke from applying the oil wash, you want to make sure that that we're removing that, because this model doesn't have a lot of sharp lines on it other than on the claws and things like that. But in general, it's just not a very like linear faction model range. So we want to avoid that for this scheme. Other schemes, you know, you spend a lot of time painting straight lines on the carapace and stuff. This ain't that. Thank God. Because if it was, I wouldn't be doing this army. I'd be continuing to look at it and go, nope, not for me. Don't want to spend the times. And so that's the advantage of these kind of easy, quick, impactful schemes. Because that's the other part. Like, you know, I have some pride, and I don't want to put an army that looks like crap out on the table. But you know, close combat's my thing. Tyranids have you know, kind of an emphasis on that, so it'd be cool to try it out. But so I'm glad that this scheme is working as well as it is, and you can see we're going very, very fast and loose with this, and this is going to look a little bit off, a little bit not 100%. Until the other warm element comes in, which is the blood splatter, which we'll do in the next tutorial. And that's where it really kind of evens out, because right now it's all cold, and then you have kind of these warm elements on like the main body and the joints and stuff. And they can tend to stand out a little bit, and it just doesn't look like everything kind of goes together. Everything's also still matte, and so that's going to change. The carapace will be satin versus the matte of the rest of the body, so that's another source of contrast that's helpful. And All right, I think that looks pretty good. Maybe lighten up a little bit on from the gun here. So you see we got a little bit of warmth around the body. The head is really sticking out as like, it looks weird that there's nothing going on there. We are going to fix that in a major way in the next series. Don't you worry. So I think like from that angle, that looks pretty good. Oops, there's some oil on the tail. That's fine. Like that looks pretty good. Like we're looking like a thing now. Got a little bit of color, a little bit of differentiation. So when we come back for part 3, we're going to do a tiny bit more brushwork and some blood splatter. Oh, and some varnish. Then we'll do the blood splatter. Blood splatter is always the last thing because I don't want to touch it. I don't want to touch any varnish. So stay tuned for that. We are going to be doing part 3 of the Hive Fleet Ancalagon tutorial series. We are about 45-ish minutes into painting this model. That's really right where I'd like to be. I really want to max out at like 90 minutes at the most for this model. And if I were not doing the tutorial, I would be painting this alongside the Hive Tyrant and then with the big bug from Leviathan, which I still have to paint. I would not be doing this model by itself. I digress. So next step is we're going to take Vallejo model colored beige red, which is like a fleshy, warm flesh tone. You can use any warm flesh tone you want. And we are going to paint. I need a little. This is thin. You want this thin. You do not want like super hard lines on this. Generally, we're going to paint the mouth and the jaw. And don't worry about being too fine with this. This is all going to get just absolutely drenched in blood. So don't worry about it. But the flesh gives a lot of vibrancy to the blood splatter, and it gives a nice coloration to the head as well. So I still want that to be black. Whatever. Oh, black paint's still wet. So there you go. Perfect. Let's do that. Go. Excellent. And then just make sure like the eye is black because we're gonna go back and hit that with like a gloss varnish at the very, very, very end. We're probably gonna have to repaint that after we do the blood splatter, but that's okay. How much darker that eye got, love it. It's because just doing a glossy black eye at the end. We're also gonna do the ends of the weapons here. I think maybe we'll do around kind of these hoses. And maybe a little bit on the ammo sack back here as well. And this blood splatter is going to travel. It's going to migrate. It's going to get on kind of everything around it. That's fine. That is 100% okay. We like the blood splatter around here. So I'm going to get a little salsa cup here. Go on Amazon and buy like 200 of these. If you're doing enamels, clears, oils. Sorry, you have to listen to me rummaging here. If you're going to be using materials like these, great idea to have a bunch of these things because you can just use them and you don't have to worry about cleaning. So, 1 second, I have to turn the airbrush back on. Compressor's got to fill up. So, I'm going to pause for a second. Okay, now that we have the airbrush fired up, I lied. We have a little bit more brush work to do, just a tiny. We're going to take white. In this case, it is AK white. And we're going to just pick out the teeth. And this will become apparent why after we do copious amounts of blood splatter that we're going to do. But this can be, so like that. It doesn't have to be exact. All right. Painted the teeth. Looks a little cartoony right now, but I promise it'll be fun. So, super cheap craft brush. Good. Black ink to me a clear red. Okay? First things first. Gosh darn it. Sorry. I've really only painted this once. And that was at a breakneck pace while doing a test game, so bear with me. Now, the actual first things first, AK Interactive Satin Varnish. I love this stuff. This stuff is great. And just go direct into the airbrush. And y'all know that if something isn't flowing well, the trick is always just to squeeze harder, right? I was just doing that, and I managed to stop myself. So the AK Interactive Satin Varnish, we're going to spray this on all the carapace, okay? We're going to give it a pretty good coat. Oh my goodness, look at that. Set. We'll come back to the head while that dries. The nice thing about AK Satin Varnish, other than it just being like, good quality, is there's a little bit of like bluing in it, and so you can see where you're applying it and how much, which is super helpful. So nice. We want a nice coat of varnish on there because we really want this so like you can see on the head there. How that is. All right, dry. Good enough. Now let's turn this bad boy around and look at spraying air to get it to dry. So now you can see the effect that it has like on the head. Super cool. Really, really cool effect. Like, Colin, we didn't highlight anything on the carapace. And I will say, you're right. Because, fuck that. Ain't nobody got time for that. So the shininess of the carapace gives it this very, like, flick look. And really makes its own highlights just with the natural light. The shininess is a kind of highlight. Is that a cop-out? Yeah. Do I care? No. I think it looks great. Looks super fucking cool. The claws, you gotta be less worried about, getting the perfect coat of satin varnish versus them, existing. Hooves we definitely want to get. Hooves and claws and stuff. But like these little claws, the vestigial claws, I'm less worried about those. Oops, I keep hitting the camera. I'm sorry. Oh my god. I have a new desk and I'm still getting used to the camera placement and everything. The old desk was like, putting on a glove after 400 tutorials. So I'm just gonna reuse some of my satin here. What is that? You're kidding me. Oh, okay. Just a little piece of plastic. I thought it was like a tag from a sprue tag or something. I was like, me. And I know I assembled this quickly, but not that quickly. Come on. A little professional pride here. Set these ones down here. And I think we're pretty good. And you see, this is starting to look creepy now. Like, that makes such a big difference to do that varnish. Now we're starting to look pretty creepy. I think we're starting to get into the creep show a little bit. Which is super exciting because, it should be creepy and alien and strange and all of the above, right? This shouldn't be like familiar, I guess. But I don't know if I already said this or if I said this in one of the hang on a second. Sorry, the compressor was leaking, so I couldn't hear myself talk because I can't imagine how good that sounded on the audio. But I think I said it before, but I'll say it again. One of the things that I really love about the Tyranid range is how flexible it is for color schemes. You can really do whatever you want. You can lavish as much attention as you want on this model range, and it will take it. You can spend an hour painting a model this size, and it's still going to look pretty cool. So if you have Twitter, go on to Twitter and find Eddie Eccles, Eccles. Does an insanely vibrant, involved Tyranid scheme. He works for Games Workshop. It's been in White Dwarf a couple of times. Been on Warhammer Community. I'm sure some of his models will be posted shortly from Leviathan. It's such a cool scheme, but you have to love it, and that has to be your scheme. So I'm gonna do this, but Tamia Clear Red. Now we're going to make the blood splatter. Straight out of the bottle, Tamia Clear Red is too bright. Straight out of the bottle. Period. Blood, especially old blood, dried blood, if you've ever been around it, darkens really quickly. And especially blood that has been exposed to air for a long time. gets really, really dark, almost black crimson. So we're going to add, so it looks like that, essentially. So we're adding black ink to acrylic ink to Tamiya Clear Red to darken it and get it to look like a little bit older blood. The Tamiya Clear Red on its own, it's the biggest mistake that I see people make with when they're trying to do blood splatter, is it's too red. It's like fresh, super fresh blood, which, you know, is a very finite period of time, and then it just starts to darken. So what we're going to do is we're going to hold this. I'll do it on the base first to show you. And I have a tutorial on this as well if you want to look up. We're going to take the airbrush, needles retracted, and we're just going to hit it with air. Okay? Just like that. And you can see we get some realistic blood splatter effect there. The more you load up, the more it's going to splatter. Okay? And now this is the super tricky part. Is just getting the right angle so that this shit doesn't just go everywhere. And I'm going to try and concentrate on one area and then move on to the next area. But like that looks kind of gross. Kind of gross. Oh, come on. Ah, shit. Sorry. No, that's not going to work. Okay, and the thing with Tamiya Clear Red is that once it's there, you really can't do shit about it. So I just hit that claw with the brush. I had to add some splatter around it to make it look intentional, because there's no like cleaning that off to get it to be, you know, back to its natural state. Like, it's just not going to happen. That looks okay. I think we're going to try and get the, there we go. Okay. Much happier with that. Now we're going to go back in on the face. Oh, goodness. Me nervous. Yes, there we go. Now we are cooking with gas. And we get that like fine spray kind of around the maw. That is cool. That is good. Holy stars. This is all done entirely too close to this camera. Oh, shit. Great devourer indeed. I'm also going to take the brush and just brush in the mouth. So I can stop just spraying this crap everywhere. But that's pretty good. Whoops. I'm going to do a little bit more extending beyond just kind of that flesh line of the, like if you see here, see how it's like pretty much just restricted to the area we painted flesh. I'm gonna go back further into the blue gray of the body and just kind of integrate that a little bit more. That's better. And I want to make sure to get underneath. And okay, Easy. Easy, big guys. There we go. That looks a lot better. That looks a lot better integrated beyond the part that we just painted the red. Yeah, prop this up again. So, whoops, actually, we can probably do that. And we want to get around the joints in the gun that we painted that flesh. There we go. And then this is really the money shot. Oh, shit. Why am I making this so difficult? And there we go. All right. And now the real money shot is the weapon itself. We want to make sure we get plenty of and we need to do enough that it obscures where we like just painted flesh. And then underside on this. So, because this is so directional, you really want to make sure you get it from every angle. And we've really got some buildup on the front part of the gun, but you could see that really nice blood splatter kind of further down the weapon. Looking quite good. Started to think maybe the problem is the choice of here. This is like fucking rubberized. Is that gonna be better? It's too stupid in there. I didn't. That's for having. And then maybe just a little bit back there. And now I'm just going to hit a couple kind of random spots around. This is such a big model. Doesn't have to be a lot. It can just be a little hint, a couple little splats here and there. Like on the leg there, that'll look good. Just a little bit to kind of bring the rest of the model into the bloodbath that is the front of this model. All right. And then I'm just going to do a little bit more just directly back from the mouth, really. Again, really good strings on this blood splatter. I'm super happy with that. Hell yeah. And that's it. Like, I'm not even going to matte varnish. I'm not even going to matte varnish those pieces. Painting's done. Brush is down. That was an hour. Paint on this model's done. And you're fucking done. That looks absolutely gnarly. I'm going to clean off this brush and kind of clean up this. Like, look at this area. It looks so cool. Oops. That's not good. I'm going to clean up the area a little bit and we'll take a look at the model. And I'm going to clean this brush out. So with isopropyl alcohol. So I'll be right back. Okay, so I got one of the salsa cups with some isopropyl, and I just wash that brush out, and even, cheap craft store brush comes up pretty clean after the isopropyl. And this goes back in, the box with all the Tamiya stuff. So the next time I have to do blood splatter, I use the same brush. I do the same thing for oils and enamels. Oh, I spoke too soon about the brushwork. I spoke too soon. And this is something that I did on the rest of the models. It just looks creepy. So right now we just kind of have this big bloody mess on the front of that model. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go back and pick out the teeth. Try to pick out the teeth without fucking up this model. Okay, this part I actually need to pay attention to. It just helps to define the mouth and helps to define the mouth, add some definition, add a point of focus. Without it, it's just kind of like a big bloody area, which it still is. But this way, see, you can see the actual defined areas of the mouth a lot better with those teeth blocked in like that. And I just noticed that the kind of top area of the gum there doesn't have any blood, which seems unlikely with everything going on. So just gonna get a throwaway brush here. Kind of paint that in. All right, Ferg, stop fucking with it. Okay, now painting's done. And it looks suitably just creep-tastic. A lot of blood splatter on the end of the gun. Kind of some random splatter around the model. The head looks fucking gross. The sack looks gross. All in all, looks pretty gnarly. Super happy. So, now that that's done, when I come back, we're going to talk about basing, and I'm going to show you what I'm going to do for that. We are going to be talking about basing, and we're going to be looking at basing for Hive Fleet Ancalagon in our fourth and final tutorial installment for the Hive Fleet. We're about an hour in to paint on this model, and the paint part is done. It looks gross and scary. I love it. So now we have to do the base. And full disclosure, right now, the basing part of this is entirely theoretical. I have not done this basing before. We're going to do it live on camera. And then when it works, I'm going to transport it out to the rest of this army that I'm working at. So I picked up Vallejo, Diorama Effects, Earth Texture, Black Lava, Asphalt. They say, oh, you should have like an interesting base. Absolutely not. This entire thing is going to be grayscale except for the freaking blood. I want black, gravel, dirt, earth, etc. with, we're going to use some gray pigments. And that's really going to be it. I might dry brush it. Give it a light dry brush here or there. But it's really going to be like this texture paste and some pigments, and we're going to call that a day. Is what we're going to do. I am a little concerned that this won't dry matte. That this, because it's like asphalt or something, that it might have like a satin finish, which is only going to cause problems because I will then need to like airbrush matte varnish it, but I may also end up matte varnishing, the hooves or the arms or something, especially on smaller models. But we will cross that bridge when we get to it. We are not crossing that bridge right now. So I use a popsicle stick to like get the majority of the material on the base. That looks pretty good. I think for other models, for some of the models in Leviathan have tactical rocks and shit on their base. I may add some of that in the future, as far as like skulls, of course, and rocks or debris or whatever, all that crap. Probably add some of that on other bases. I'm not going to add it on this one because I don't want to. And it's such like a big front focused model. Nobody's gonna be looking at this base at all. There's not gonna be any vegetation on the base because the smaller like brood creatures and stuff, even smaller than like raveners, like the microorganisms and the biophages and like all that shit. Read the Devastation of Baal if you really want to feel how Tyranids kind of take out a planet. It's the creepiest, like craziest depiction of Tyranids, most effective depiction of Tyranids I've ever read. I love it. I think it's fantastic. It's a great novel. Highly recommend reading it. Devastation of Baal by Guy Haley. Go read it. But this has got like some metallic. What is going on with this lava asphalt? I hope that's left over from somewhere else, because this is... Okay, I'm talking to myself now. But if you're a veteran... look at that. See, I'm not super optimistic about this drying mat. Find out. I'm gonna have to leave it overnight. So hair. So I'm gonna take a damp towel. No vegetation because the microorganisms and stuff that go with the attacking force and before the attacking forces will have scraped all that biomatter clean anyway, at least in my mind. Again, nice thing about Tyranids is you do whatever the fuck you want. So, a lot of people will put them on jungle bases or whatever. That's their business. If this dries satin / glossy, we'll just matte varnish it and go on with our lives. So, A little bit of texture paste on the base. We're going to let that dry overnight. And when we come back, we will finish up the base and finish up the model. Call it done. So we'll see you in the morning. Okay, so like I thought, the base is not matte. It's not like super shiny, but it is not matte. So I want that to be matte. And so what we're going to do is get a little bit of water in the cup and then Vallejo matte varnish. Mix that up. Snip it. Go. Let me try and be a little bit careful and not overspray. I don't want to have to go back and I may have to go back with a satin varnish just on the claws and hooves and stuff, but this should work. Just spraying with air to make sure it works. Yeah, so you can see there that spot that I matte varnished versus the rest of the base there. And this won't have like a huge impact, but I think it's one of those things that like if I didn't do it, it would have a much larger negative impact by not doing it than it does a positive impact by doing it, if that makes sense. So I think that's good. Yeah, so that's just black dirt now, so we can be done with that. Was done with the airbrush. Okay. Grab that house. All right, we're going to let that dry for just a second while I put all my stuff away. And that looks better. And so now I'm going to get just a cheap synthetic brush and paint palette here. We're going to get just a little just a little bit of paper towel. And then as far as what we're going to dry brush with, just like a normal, a medium C gray. I don't know, just like a regular gray. Nothing too, that's going to be too light. That's too light. Not intermediate, more of warm blue gray. There we go, neutral gray. That sounds promising. The pigments are going to do the overwhelming majority of the work on this base, but I do want to just bring out, the texture with just a little quick dry brush. So just get a little bit of paint on the brush, work it into the bristles like so on the paper towel, and then just like a nice quick dry brush just to bring out the texture, you know. That's all we're doing here. Really, really, really simple. The different pigments will give it a lot more interest than paint. I want that kind of ashy wasteland to go with the palette of the Tyranids themselves, because they'll adapt. Oops, getting a little sloppy here with the gray. I don't want to get it on the claws and the hooves and things like that. I want those to stay black. Otherwise, it can potentially look like, maybe a highlight or something, and then your eye will expect to see that on other hooves and spikes and things like that, and it's just not going to be there. So, just a quick dry brush, really simple. I think that's fine for what it is. Really don't need to do more than that. And then now is where the fun starts. You get a little paper towel there for pigment work. I'm going to bring this in a little closer. I use Secret Weapon pigments because I have them. Secret Weapon has since gone out of business. You can use pigments from AK. You can use pigments from Vallejo, Forge World. A lot of different manufacturers. They're all basically the same thing. I like Secret Weapon pigments, but they are no more. So I imagine you can still probably find them online if you really wanted to. Let's see, exhaust black, ash gray, slate gray. No, where's violet? There it is. One thing they do have that I don't see very often is this violet pigment that's really cool. So we're going to fuck with that a little bit. Okay. So I have kind of a selection of pigments here. And then we're going to get out Soilworks Pigment Fixer or Terrain Fixer from Scale 75. That is what we're going to use to adhere the pigments to the base. I'm just going to be mashing these pigments around kind of randomly on the base. I have Smoke from AK. I don't know which this one is. The label rubbed off, but it's kind of a purplish gray, if that makes sense. We got some violet pigment, which is, this stuff's amazing. This stuff's like gold. That'll just add a little bit of interest to the base, so it's not all just gray. Ash gray, which is slate gray, which is light gray. Ash gray, which is even lighter, and then exhaust black for also, mushing around. And so I'm just going to open all of these. Smoke is a cool one too. I really like AK pigments. AK pigments are very, very high quality pigment. Secret Weapon ones are good too, but AKs in particular are very, very good. So I'm going to take a little bit bigger brush just because this is a bigger base. And I'm just going to start maybe on a couple areas. Just put a little violet and kind of moosh that around. Different pigments are kind of, stronger than others. It's just like paints like that. This one I'm going to put down first so that when I go through and kind of grab, that's a lot of pigment. When I grab other pigments, it'll integrate with the violet. This is the mystery pigment. Quite sure what it is, but that looks good. Get a little smoke here. That's a little darker. And these will all kind of blend together. Slate, now we'll get a little lighter slate gray. And this is where we really start to get some interest, some ash gray. Is when we're putting the light kind of over the dark. Um, this can get near the hooves and stuff. And we want to make sure we're overlapping. We're not just putting, patches of pigment, a patch of violet, and then next to it a patch of smoke, and then next to that a patch of, ash gray. We really want to be integrating, overlapping to give it a more natural look. I want to stay away from the fleshy bits of the model with this, though. I don't want to get these all over the fleshy bits, but the feet and stuff are fair game. So the darker pigment, the more you work the lighter pigment, the more the darker pigment's going to kind of absorb it. So we just want to be a little bit mindful of that. And this, we are going for ashy, destroyed wasteland here. This is the vibe, is absolutely desolated wasteland from the Tyranid invasion. So that kind of ash gray fits that theme really, really well. Go back in with a little bit of exhaust black, so it's not all just, gray on gray on gray on gray. And just a touch more violet to kind of mix it up a little bit. And I think that's probably pretty good. Break up this violet a little bit. There we go. That's probably pretty good. I mean, that's an ashy kind of base. I really, 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 really want that to be it. So we're going to call it there. Probably do fine to have some, maybe like some obsidian kind of black, just like the carapace. If we have shared elements between the carapace and the basing, it kind of is signaling that the Tyranids are adapting to their environment, which is, what they do. So if we have some shiny black rocks on the base, that would really be cool. So now I'm going to take this terrain fixer and a brush that I use really only for the terrain fixer. I'm going to load up the brush really heavy, and just, this part takes a minute. We want the capillary action to spread the fixer. I don't want to brush this on. If I brush this on, it's just going to mix all the pigments together, and it's going to make them all into just kind of like a paste. And I'm going to lose the differentiation between the different colors of pigment and stuff. So I can tap, but I don't want to brush. That makes sense. And this stuff will take a minute to dry. This is the best pigment fixer that I've found. It really adheres the pigments to the base and makes it so you don't get to where you're traveling to and there's a whole bunch of dust in your case and all that. So this is the best stuff that I've found. MIG also makes a pigment fixer that's very good. Oh, there's a lot of pigment right there. Okay. You can use a hair dryer to speed up the pigment fixer process. I generally don't really like to do that, just because it's the last part of the process. I don't really want to blow that stuff around. And by the time I'm here, I can wait. So you can see we're just like, it's really wet. We're just going to leave that and come back to it when it's dry. And then paint the base rim, really, and we're done. So I'm going to let that dry, and then I'm going to come back and we'll finish the model. Okay, so we are back, and this is mostly dry. I mean, the parts where there was like some really thick pigment, like in here, that'll take a little bit longer to dry. But you see, I like kind of the ash effect there. Got a nice kind of gray effect at the front of the base. Look at that maw. This scheme is so cool. I love this shit. I think the base looks fine. I mean, I think it complements the model really well. Adds a little bit of color on the base. It looks fine. It'll definitely work for this scheme. And now what we're going to do, just to finish it off, I use the same paint for every base rim. You don't have to, use the same one. But it's Thamar Black from P3. I have like 6 pots of this stuff just in case they ever fuck it up. Go out of business. It's got kind of a satin semi-gloss finish to it. And it's got good coverage. I like it. So, and it's just what I use for every base. It's a ritual at this point, so gotta do it. And yes, I paint every single base rim black. It's like the frame around the picture. Right, and this is definitely the quick and dirty version of the scheme, quick and dirty version of army painting, but I hope this inspires you, even if you're not doing like this scheme on this Tyranid army, to experiment with a very limited palette, limited techniques. I could see doing a demon army in a similar way, very fluid, very minimalist. Think that could look cool. So there's a lot of possibilities here, but this model's done. Let me zoom out and refocus here. Pretty gross, pretty grody. But that's a finished model, and we are at total paint time, not and that's including the basing, not including the drying time, obviously. We're at about like an hour and 15 minutes start to finish, and that's with me filming. If I didn't have to film, this would have been an hour for sure. Which an hour for a painted tyrannofex in a catching scheme that is fucking creepy is really exciting. So my friend Mark asked me, like, oh, are you doing a Tyranid army? And like, part of me doesn't want to commit to, another army for 40K. I have my Blood Angels. I'm working on Sisters. I just sold a few armies. So like, I don't really want to commit to another army, but when I could buy a kit, build it, and paint it that day or the next day and have it ready for the table, that's pretty exciting. And to have it look like this and be, an interesting, easy scheme, who knows? So that's it. Hive Fleet Ancalagon. Thank you for following. Thank you for your support as always. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments so everybody can see the answer. Send me a private message, whatever you want to do. Thank you. Talk to you soon. Take care. Paint happy. And the Emperor protects.